Reports in Access can be created several different ways. Reports show a summary of data or data that you would provide to someone who will make business decisions based on that information. So when you create a report, it can be created based off of a table or tables, or it can be created or based on queries. So a couple of different ways you can create a report. I would say use either the Report Quick tool here or the Report Wizard. So if I wanted a report based off of the presenter exhibits and locations query, I'll just do a quick one here. And when you run that report, what it's going to do, if it's based off of a table, it's going to pull that data from the table every time you run that report. So if data is edited, it will pull in the updated data to the report. The same with queries. If the report is based off of a query, just like we created this one, it's going to go in and run the query. The query will go into the tables and pull the data so that it can create the query, and then it will pull that data into the report. So here, this is our layout view, so we can go in and do some basic edits to try to get that to fit to one page. And we'll look at that in a little bit more detail in a minute. So that's a very quick way to create a report. The next way I want to use the Report Wizard. So I'm going to create it from the Exhibits with Presenters query, and we'll pull everything from that query. Obviously, if you wanted to use a different one, you would go to the drop down. We'll use all of these fields, and you can group it either by the presenter name, which shows each of the presentations for each presenter, or you can show it or group it by exhibit. So for each exhibit, it will show the presenters that will be in that particular exhibit to give their presentations. So we're going to choose by presenters, and we just want to group it by their last name and first name. We don't need anything additional, so we'll go to next there. We're going to group or to sort based on date. Let's sort it based on date so that we can get that in a chronological order. And the stepped option will give you, if you have grouping, it will give it in a kind of stepped layout so that you can see the grouping level and then the detail levels under that. We'll go ahead and choose landscape. It will fit everything on a page, but it doesn't always do it very nicely. So you'll still have to do some editing for that. And I'm just going to call this presenter schedules. And what this will do again is it will preview the report, which means it will run it and it will pull the data. It will run the query. The query will pull the data from the tables to create the query, and then it will run the report. So this is our report, and we want to do a little bit of editing here. But in the different views, again, you've got your report view, which is what the user sees, the print preview, and you cannot edit anything in either of those views. You can use the layout and the design view to make your edits. Here again, the forms and reports are created in Access in sort of a table format, so you have to keep that in mind when you are doing your editing. So if I wanted to change the widths of these, I can do so in layout view, or I can do so in my design view. So the design view is more granular. You can do more detailed editing there. So in the report view or the detailed view, I will say that it has different sections for the report. There is no report footer, but if you have the report header and footer, those show up on only the first and last page of the report. The page header shows up on every page. The first name header and detail, those will show up on each page of the report as needed. So there's a little more detail to the to that design view. So let's go in and format this a little bit. You can go in, and I'm just pressing Shift here and holding that down. You can go in and bold those and center them. And you can, for example, center the data. I'm going to pull that back over so that it's centered under the column heading. So you can do the same thing here for date. But that looks pretty centered right there. So you can do a little bit of editing. Just make sure that your data is not cut off in the columns and that you can see all of the data there. Let's go in and add a theme under the report layout design. If I only wanted to apply the theme to this particular report, just right-click on it and apply it to that object only. So right-click on the theme that you choose and apply it to that object only. So you can have different themes for each object in your database. So if you wanted to change the title here, you can. So maybe instead of presenter schedules, maybe I'll say it's the schedule by presenter. So remember with forms, but it's the same thing with reports, that you have labels and then you have the controls that pull in the data. So if you look in design view, you can see the ones that are transparent are the labels for the data, and the ones that have a white background pull in the data. And those sort of go together. Sometimes they'll move together, but you can move them separately, especially in these reports. So the other thing that we want to do here is add a field for starting time, because it would be nice to see the date, but also the starting time for each particular presentation. So let's go in, and the way that we would do this is go under our layout design, and we would add existing fields. And you could go in and adjust the column so that you can move it where you want. We'll just add it to the end here. So all you have to do is find the table where the starting time appears and drag it over. And it's going to ask you about the record source. We are changing the source of the data by adding the starting time, so we'll say yes. It always puts it at the left here, so I'm going to move it over to the right. And let's just say, for example, in our design view, if we wanted to move everything over, we can do that. But you would just need to make sure that everything is located appropriately so that it does not cut off your data. So, for example, if you wanted the starting time to appear in a particular place, like at 9 inches, you could do that and locate it there to where the left starts at 9 inches. So I'll go back to my layout view, and that looks pretty good. Everything is listed in a nice organized fashion. I'll go ahead and bold that and center those times underneath it.